Welcome to the Dungeon Crawlers podcast, casting light on the depths of online multiplayer gaming. I am your host, Aggelos, and I am back after a short little, well, I don't know, whatever they call it. I'm just at a loss for words, because dang, that was awesome. Just saying. Man. Hype.
Man.
Oh.
Yeah. All the hype. Right?
All the hype. I am the founder of the Dungeon Crawler Network, and with me this evening, right off the hype train, Isarii, internet wordsmith over at MMOGames.com, MMORPG.com, Gamespace.com, Tamriel Foundry, as well as dabbling on Twitch and YouTube. Everything you can find him in one place, ArentPenman.com. I promoted you properly. Way to go.
Hey,
I fucking love making you read all that.
I swear it gets longer by the week. Like
it kind of does. I think I've reached like peak project undertaking right now, so it's good. It's good.
All right, yeah. Man. Ladies and gentlemen, he writes everywhere, and he literally makes me read everything and gives me a hard time if I miss it. So follow him. It's just a lot. The lovely voice you hear down there, I don't know how she's still awake, but she's a trooper. Taruha, streamer over at twitch.tv/Taruha Gaming. Awesome.
Underscore.
Sorry. Taruha
Yeah.
_ gaming.
Yeah. Good boy. Thank you. I am barely awake, but I'm super excited.
I get a treat. I'm a good boy.
It is 4 a.m. where she's at.
It's
so.
true.
Yeah,
If this was live environment, we'd ask for a round of applause.
Yeah, she really does. Also joining us, the avatar that you see down in the corner. You've probably seen him interacting quite a bit on the official Ashes of Creation community Discord. He is a community moderator over there. Saru, that's what I'm calling you, and that's where we're at.
Hey, yeah, it's probably for the best, honestly. Like I said, no one can pronounce my name correctly.
Yeah, we had a little bit pre-show of what we combined you with, Saruman, and something else. Like it was just a weird.
Sarah Doman
Sarah
from RuneScape. I remember.
There you go.
It's my childhood.
No.
My childhood.
So you probably have interacted with him a lot. So we brought him on, asked him if he would be kind enough to join us for this episode because obviously we just got off of the interview with Steven Sharif, creative director over at Intrepid Studios. You'll be able to listen to that podcast on this feed as well as all of our RSS feeds, our YouTube page, youtube.com/Dungeon Crawler Network, and our website, dungeoncrawlernetwork.com. You can check all that out and see it there. You'll find it because it's going to be for this one. We're here today to kind of go like a Talking Dead style, because, I kind of like it. You watch a show, and then you watch like a bunch of guys talking about what just happened. That's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the interview. We're going to talk about a bunch of Ashes of Creation news, including our very own Isarii's Hobo Gamer article that he wrote over there on his site, Arent Penman. Bunch of Kickstarter-related news, and a few other little tidbits, such as nodes and an interview that Isarii had over at MMOGames. And some other little tidbits. It'll be fun. You'll enjoy it. Stick around. It's great.
We have all the interviews between all of us.
I think we do. Yeah, and I was very honored. Steven said that I had the honor. Dungeon Crawler had the honor of being the first podcast interview, and I was so excited.
Squeal.
Yeah, and he was fantastic. So I can't wait for people to hear it. Chat room, you guys are amazing. It's so awesome to see you guys here. You're active in that interview. You're active now. We're going to hop right on into the news. So first off, I guess we should probably talk about the elephant in the room, which was the elephant that just left a few minutes ago. Sorry, Steven, you're a very trim, awesome guy, but you're white elephant at this point.
That's such a mean
I know. It came.
I
started saying it and then realized, wow, that's kind of mean.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, Steven, you're like my hero, and I probably would have kissed you on the stream, but they probably would have banned me, so...
Oh my.
Yeah, I'm telling you. The interview, guys, man. Do you guys see anything that was...
Kind of.
Was it interesting? Was there anything that was good in there?
I was pleased that roleplay was mentioned. I probably would have, tracked you down and killed you in your sleep if, you didn't ask something about roleplay. So,
Yeah, I had you in mind in that particular case, but, yeah.
You know what I really like about them, and that is kind of unique, is just how open. Like, he is not dodgy with his answers almost at all, and it does lead to some kind of weird situations where, I think the Kickstarter was a good example about this, and some of us had heard about it before, but it hadn't really been promoted. But you see, expanded naval content as a stretch goal, and for a lot of people, we're like, there's naval content, much the less expanded naval content, where things are just kind of flying at you. I think there was one of those in the interview earlier, but I can't remember what it was. But I think that happened a couple of that times where they're really not shy about their information policy, and things just sort of come flying at you, and there's almost more than you can process. But it's a great problem to have.
It's funny that you mentioned that, and I'm gonna spill a little secret before this. As you know, I shared some of the questions I was gonna ask with our Dungeon Crawler Network community, and I asked if people in there had some questions that they would want to add, and there were a couple that were added. And as a podcaster, one of my things that I like to do is whenever I do an interview, I provide the questions up front. I like the people to be able to tell me, I don't want to talk about this now. Because, that makes for boring radio. If you go, hey, what about this? And I'm like, we're not ready. So I skip those, and so they can prepare their answer so they're not put on the spot. Steven told me he didn't get a chance to see any of the questions that I had sent him. So he answered every one regardless. He didn't pre-approve any. He's just like, let's do it.
Fucking like a boss.
Yeah, he was a total boss.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I was almost taken by surprise when we sort of submitted them for pre-approval, but nothing was shut down. But just with the way my interactions with him have been and the way he interacts in Discord, it was kind of like, that's good that they're doing that. But so many indie devs are really just off the cuff, and that's how it ended up playing after all. So
yeah.
Good.
I always provide.
That's why I love indie devs. Working with AAA studios is nowhere near as much fun.
I agree, 100%. And like I said, I like to provide it because you don't want those boring answers. But he rocked those questions regardless. It's fantastic. So, and I'm really glad that was there. I have to pull up the questions again of all the ones that I was answering. It's crazy. Anyone else have anything that was super that they thought was cool?
I mean, the way he talks about stuff just makes me feel a little bit, but that might just be because either he's a very good player, which I have trust issues when it comes to him. Everyone knows that. But or it's a genuinely a genuine person that wants not your money, but you have fun as well. And then with him.
I think you were kind of breaking up there a little bit.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. No, you're.
Yeah. Okay. You sound a little better now.
Oh shit! My mic is stupid. But I was saying,
again.
right?
Yep.
That seems like such a genuine guy. They're a liar.
All right, Taruha, I'm gonna have to stop you here. Sorry, you are breaking up a little bit, so maybe want to look at your connection.
Legitimately can't understand.
Yeah, there's some questions here. We'll come back to you in a second. I actually got some questions. One of the things that I was super interested in is that I love the fact that he pretty much said that gear will break, right? Sorry, you and I talk about this a lot with MMO economies, how the bound gear never breaking is what kills these because no one wants to buy anything. Gear will break and degrade, and then you could even get a crafter to fix it if you had a legendary sword or something. You could take it to a crafter. I broke my legendary sword. I don't want to just trash it. Can you repair it, please?
Yeah. One of my questions that you asked was the one about how they're planning to balance having a crafting gear economy with having some of the best gear also dropping off bosses, because that's something that's very hard and usually it doesn't quite work out. I think ESO has actually done a really good job of this, where they have essentially some unique sets that drop from PvE, especially the monster sets, where basically you're always filling your shoulder and your helmet from PvE, but outside of that, crafting has a real competitive role to play in the rest of your gear. But I wasn't completely satisfied with his answer to that question until the next question, which was the breakage question. Mm-hmm. And when I heard, gear will break, yeah, that makes a whole lot more sense. So I wasn't expecting them to go that route, but I'm really excited that they're doing it because it's really just essential if you want crafting to be a huge part of your economy. And the only other option I think to really make it work without breakage is to go the arcade route, where there's just an incredible amount of RNG at every level of your crafting system, to where it's more theoretical than the norm. The idea of sort of the best in slot piece of gear, it's so almost insanely impossible to get that people are always trying for upgrades. But that's not a system that I really enjoy, and it's definitely one where monetization can make a lot of impact. And, Ash has said they're not going that route, which is great, but I'm glad to see they're going with breakage instead of that just colossal giant system of RNG that we've seen in other games that have tried to keep crafting relevant that way.
Right. Saru, want to kind of pull you in here because, the three of us, we've been podcasting together for a while, so we just, beat each other into submission. Want to give you an opportunity to speak.
No, I've always enjoyed talking to Steven. I think he's a cool guy. I like the whole community aspect of things. He really cares about the community, and that's the one thing that I really care about. And I've worked with a lot of companies, I've worked with a lot of publishers and developers, and offsite, third party, but there's these AAA MMO games, we don't care about their community, or they pretend to, or something, and it doesn't feel genuine. But with this game, it's looking, the developers are actively talking to people. They're actually caring about the community. They want feedback. If people don't like things, they want to change it to mold, but still stay with their vision. And I love that, because you don't see that anymore. So, yeah.
I feel you. I know sorry, and both myself, and I see a Tropos in in chat being like they pretend to care. It's true in that regard. Like we've both worked with developers for quite a while. Like obviously, if you follow Dungeon Crawler Network, one of our first podcast we ever did, Tales of Tamriel. It's 141 episodes, still going strong. We've interviewed several of the devs, wonderful people. But one of the things that as I believe Atropos was attributing to, is some of the promises they made early on were not kept, and a lot of that I feel like is because, and Isarii and I talked offline about this, that I don't feel like ZeniMax, the company, and I don't want to give that, like, they're awesome.
Oh, we're naming names, are we?
I shouldn't have named names, but it's true. They're awesome developers. We're not going to talk SWOTOR. We're just not, because Taruha will explode.
No, I just don't mention it. I will explode.
What we were talking about was, like the dev team for the most part is pretty great. The community managers are fantastic, but there's, a corporate level or three above them where the decisions are actually being made. And a lot of the times in the larger AAA studios, people are giving you information when they don't know what's about to change, or, somebody who doesn't have to deal with the backlash changes their mind right after they've told the community manager something. Yeah. And it can be frustrating. And that's part of the reason that they're so guarded to begin with. Working with, especially as content creators, we really get to see working with indie studios. They're just so much more forthcoming. One of my favorite experiences was actually with Tim over at Saga of Leucemia, who Aggelos has done podcasts with, like a regular podcast series with, which is so cool about their game. I sent him just a couple interview questions, and I got like 7,000 words in response. Like, we had to split it into multiple really long articles just to get it out there, and that's fantastic. Whereas whenever you're working with a AAA studio, you have to think really carefully about how you're wording your questions. Otherwise, you're going to get yes or no answers where they, or evasions. It's really about pinning them down. And with someone like Steven with Ashes of Creation, I've very much seen that, where I can sort of toss him an open-ended one and just let him talk, and it's fantastic.
And slight correction, that was not Atropos who said it, pretending to. I'm not putting words in his mouth. I had to say this. It's something Isarii said, which I would actually 100% agree that is something Isarii would say about pretending developers. So Tropos, still stand-up guy. Still love him. Right. I had to clear his name. And then drag Isarii through the mud. But I think Isarii probably already, would stand up with that.
I don't actually remember saying that, but it does sound like something I would say.
I don't remember saying that, but I feel comfortable accepting credit.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am on that.
Yeah. I gotcha.
No, one thing, by the way, from the interview that actually stuck with me, and it's kind of silly that it's not a substantive part of the interview. It's not like a mechanical reveal that we had, but I just love whenever Steven's talking about his sort of, fuck it, I'll make my own game, and he pretty much just said it that way. Maybe not in those words, but it's just great because so many of us have felt that so many times over the last 10 years or so, and we didn't have the money to do that. So it's really great to see someone, just when he talks about games that way and his frustration with the MMO genre, you really feel like he's someone that's been where you've been and is kind of just trying to move past that, force the genre to adapt. So here's hoping. I'm ready to board the hype train.
I'm ready, yeah. And it's one of the things that I like most about indie developers. And like you said, with the examples we gave earlier, with changes, I mean, I know we've been burnt in the past, and even Steven said he's been a gamer, he's been burnt in the past. One of the reasons why I support all these indie developers is because without the financial backers from, like the higher ups going, hey, we gave you money, we expect a return, they can kind of dictate what they want, right? Like Ashes of Creation, Saga of Lucemia. Saga of Lucemia is pretty much, I love these guys because they're like, we're going sub, and that's what we're sticking with. We don't care if we don't have 1 million players. We have enough to keep the servers on, we'll run. If we don't, well, then we'll shut down. We're never going, free to play or anything of that nature. We don't believe in that. And you can say those things when you're your own boss. I mean, yeah, obviously there's money involved in that kind of stuff, but you still don't have someone dictating to you, regardless, like we've been told in the past, this will never happen. And a month later, yeah, it's happening now because they were told from someone on high, yeah, you shouldn't have said that because it's coming down the line. So the hype is definitely real. And I'm willing to give Steven, like I said, I was super excited. I'm willing to believe him. So Steven, don't break my heart, all right? Like I said, I'm looking for an MMO home that I can shut down and be like, I don't care about any other game coming out. I'm good for the next decade or longer, Like, I'm good. So I'm putting my faith in Steven here. Like, don't break my heart. Please don't. Please don't break my heart.
Hype trains are dangerous,
I think thousands of players are like putting, not even thousands, I mean we're getting up there, but thousands of players are putting their faith rather into this game because it's kind of like their last hope, because we've had games that have been just copy paste for the last decade and do the same thing and the same mistakes, and they don't really care. They go again and again and again, and that's what I love. They're trying to competitively like change the genre, but at the same time bring back some of the elements that made people love MMOs to begin with. And I'm hoping, because if I'm being real here, I'm hoping, obviously, as we are all, that Ashes of Creation can deliver on that promise.
Right. And, it's funny, like, people in chat right now are talking about thousands of people is right, because we are all looking for this MMO home. We're tired of these, well, I'll say it, Korean imports, because that's all we're getting, because no AAA studio really wants to touch MMOs anymore because they're too risky and, a lot of money goes into them. So we're getting these imports. But most people don't look at these as a home. I'll play it for 3 to 6 months. 3 to 6 months? I remember once upon a time, that was, the leveling curve. And Taro, your mic is fine.
Okay.
I know you're
because I'm avoiding talking because I don't want to sound like an idiot.
No, you're fine. I'll let you know if it crackles again. You're good.
We'll yell at you if it stops.
Yeah, we have no qualms about yelling at you on the air.
Wow. Okay, I'm good.
Well, let me just throw out before we move on from just the blatant fanboying that we're descending into at this point. It was my favorite quote from his A New Beginning post that they made right when they rolled out the website, and it kind of really captures that what Sarah was talking about, the the way that they're trying to get back to the MMO's roots and the things that attracted so many of us to this genre in the first place. and what makes it unique. So anyway, this was my favorite quote. I included this in my big article. But it was that. So we wanted to take a step back, and this is Stephen talking, to check ourselves before we wrecked ourselves, to really dive into what makes MMOs so addictive and why we kept coming back to them. The primary question is, what makes an MMO fun at its core? Well, it's got to be the thing that makes an MMO an MMO, right? What separates an MMO from all the fantastic Mass Effects and Dragon Ages and Witchers? It's the massiveness. It's the community and the forums and the competition and the people you'd never meet in real life. It's that massively multiplayer promise. It's the people that make an MMO what it is, not a hotbar or raid bar or fetch quest. Those are mechanics. Those aren't the genre. Mm-hmm. And I have been writing this shit for years, so it was so cool to see a developer writing it. So cool.
Yeah.
Atropos had a good question. I want each person here to answer, so we'll go one at a time. But he had a question for the group. The reasons to be hyped are many and real, but I'm curious, what do the four of us on this podcast, see as being the most significant risk and are challenges that Intrepid will have to overcome in order for Ashes to be successful? I'll go first, then we'll go Isarii, Taruha, and Saru. Honestly, one of the biggest challenges I think that they're going to have to do, I have two. And actually, I might leave one for Isarii. I might have one because I was going to mention the engine since we don't have it, but I'll leave that for Isarii because he'll probably want that. Biggest one I have.
No, you're the one with the tech background.
Okay, fine. I'll do it. Two for me that I think are the biggest hurdles. One is the engine. And I don't think it's actually a problem because I think anything can be done, right? Because they have access to the back end. The only thing that, is a risk that we'll say is because we've never seen it done before. That doesn't mean it won't be successful. I mean, think about it. World of Warcraft, we never saw an MMO with 1 million players before. We've never seen people do things. Doesn't mean it's not possible.
And something to consider on this front as well is that we haven't seen someone make an MMO and take an attempt in Unreal 4. It's not like this is the Hero Engine where we've seen a whole bunch of people try it and it was awesome.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. Whole bunch of people.
Yeah, a whole bunch of people. So it's just unproven ground. And I think that's one of the biggest comments that I am seeing is this, can you do it? And it comes from the fact that no one ever seen it. It's the whole Christopher Columbus thing. You're going to sail off the edge of the world. Well, no one's ever done it before, so we don't really know what's out there. But, that's a big one. But as long as they can get their netcode right, and this is something that is very important because making sure that the client interacting with the server is to a point where it's within a tolerable range for smooth character action. Meaning, here's the one thing that I always come back to for when I play World of Warcraft. Regardless of anything else you might say about it, their controls are tight, right? Their controls are tight, and it's something that you don't necessarily think about, but you can feel it in other games when there's just a slight latency between the client interaction and the server, with it ping being a problem. Final Fantasy XIV had this issue where for the longest time there was 5/10 of a second or 3/10 of a second delay between the client interaction and the server, and with certain raid mechanics you would die because it looked like you were out of an AoE circle, but you weren't because the server hadn't pinged back your location yet. So the server still thought you were standing in the AoE. So making sure their netcode and the way that the client interacts and works with the server is probably the most important.
Just to take the opportunity to upset Taruha there. Anybody remember in SWTOR rating how you had to jump after you exited an AoE to reset your position?
Yeah, that's a perfect example of bad netcode where your client and the server are not interacting in a tight enough formation that you can, reasonably feel like you have control. But when you have that control, it just feels good. And a good control system is something that can make or break a game. It can. That's what broke Final Fantasy 14, the original, was the terrible client. I think everything was server-side rendering. They did everything server-side, so the latency was atrocious, and it just was almost to the point where it was unplayable. The second one is actually all mental. It's the Kickstarter. I mean, obviously people threw stuff, but it's the Kickstarter mentality of, it's Kickstarter, it's never going to come out. It's the Star Citizen syndrome of, when are we actually going to see this? I mean, that's honestly the biggest hurdle I think that they have to get with new people. Because I seen, your article that you wrote on Reddit, 90% of the comments was, I'm never backing a Kickstarter. This stuff never gets made. That's what I saw. Like, no one really had points.
True,
That's
though,
all I saw.
Yes.
A lot of broken promises on Kickstarter.
Right.
So.
We'll discuss some of that Reddit stuff later on.
Yeah, and honestly, that's a problem with us, and partly with the industry. And like I said, Star Citizen is both a triumph for crowdfunding and also the bane of crowdfunding because of how much they've earned, and yet don't actually have a full game out yet. People are not. They're not out of that Kickstarter mentality that Kickstarter will work. I think when Star Citizen actually comes out, I think that whole Kickstarter mentality may change drastically because then we'll have some fruits of our labor, at least in terms of MMO type game, something that's bigger than just single player. Sorry.
Right. So I'm not sure. I guess I'll give a 2-point response here because the first one's going to be really easy. As far as biggest challenge that they're going to have to tackle, I think feature creep is kind of rearing its head a little bit, and it's not like Star Citizen where they kind of just keep adding new things later on, but Steven's got a really big vision here where he wants a whole lot of different things. But I will also say that it really depends sort of on the types of content that they're making. A game like SWTOR or ESO spends something like 80-70% of their budget on developing quests. That single-player content that is good exactly one time before you cast it aside. I mean, some people like alts, but not most people. I mean, it's not repeatable content. So if they're, pretty much eschewing that, and we're not sure if they are because they are going to have narrative, but if that's taking sort of a back burner to things like, events that repeat in accordance with node triggers and things like that, they're going to be able to get a lot more oomph out of their budget than if they were spending a whole bunch of time putting together quests, hiring voice actors, writing dialogue, and doing all those kinds of things. And my other, I guess now that's my concern insofar as how what based on what I'm seeing right now is concerning me, and then my other concern would be based on what I'm not seeing right now, which is I don't know enough about their core MMO systems. We saw in the chat, and one of my questions in the last interview was in line with that, but I didn't quite get as much of an answer as I wanted. We've seen a lot about, we've seen a little bit about combat. I don't expect to see great looking combat in a pre-alpha product, but I'd like to know a little bit about more, what kinds of mechanics they have in mind. We did get a bit of an answer there, but it's kind of stuff we already knew in terms of, it's tab targeted, limited action set to some extent, where they're not trying to go too far with the features. We're going to see iframes, but I don't know. I really want to know a little bit more about that, but I expect that we're going to have that as sort of the class videos come out over the course of the Kickstarter. More to the point, though, what types of PvE content are they looking to build? Because that's going to be huge. What are events going to look like? How we know we're going to have dungeons, but how are those going to play into the way people are actually playing the game? Leveling. How is leveling and progression going to work through the world? I think we're not hearing a lot of that because I think it's going to be pretty traditional. I think that the way that they're really looking to break the mold is with the nodes. It is with the world that kind of adapts to players, and I think that's a great way to differentiate yourself. So I think they're kind of putting that foot forward because it's what makes the game unique. But I think it's really important that a lot of players need to hear about what you're going to be doing in your day-to-day, because nodes are a meta system that other systems feed into, and the little systems themselves, systems like dungeons, like how you're primarily gaining experience, another me question, just what you're doing every day to bring up those nodes. Those are going to have a really big impact on how much players enjoy the game, probably more so than the nodes themselves. So that's kind of my concern as far as what we don't know.
Taruha.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. You guys have valid points, but yeah, what I'm afraid of is they're once they've gotten MMO out there, keeping it relevant, and what separates them from just another fantasy MMORPG. The lore is so important for me in a game as a role player that I know nothing about it at the moment. Very little. I know I read about the races and stuff, but I don't know. that's one thing I'm really worried about. And the other thing I'm really worried about is the cash shop.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I have concerns there, but I
I'm
think I've
very
got them pegged to
scared
be brought
about
up
the
later.
cash shop.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll definitely talk. Go ahead, continue, Taruha. I don't want to cut you off.
As far as lore, by the way, let me just to talk with you more than just talk over you on this one. My impression has kind of been in his answer earlier about not wanting to talk too much about lore. Because of the narrative of characters coming through a portal into this new world, and there's sort of an ancient civilization. I know, not breaking new ground on that one. I think the world lore is going to be sort of structured to sort of like a lot of. I can't think of the game, but a couple walking simulators have done this, where the player comes into the game and has in the actual narrative is sort of a. It's not a linear thing. It's you going into the world and finding pieces of it and then kind of piecing it together in your own head. And now that's definitely me making broad strokes based on a little bit of information, but I think it would fit and it would make a lot of sense with sort of his reluctance to talk about it. And it doesn't help you as a role player trying to make a decision about whether you care about a game beforehand. But I do think it could make for a compelling experience once you're in it, if that's what they're doing.
Oh, go ahead, Tara, 1 second, and I'll let you'll finish right after me. One thing that I did like is the fact that they said with the narrative in one of their Nodes videos, which we'll talk about later, they said about how the narrative is going to be the same, right? But not every server will get every piece of the story, so I expect a lot of sites and stuff going together to put together the lore, which post when the game launches, that might be a good time for role players to hop in as the story develops. Taruha.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, my biggest... worry is probably just them sticking themselves, like them not just being like lore-wise a clone of every other fantasy MMO or every other fantasy RPG story out there, because that's like part of the big issue for me with a lot of MMOs that I can't keep playing, that the story is really not compelling at all. And Cash Shop is the biggest question mark for me, because that has ruined a couple of games for me.
Right, you say more or less you're breaking up a little bit again, but you're saying that bad lore can break up a game for you. But all I gotta say is, if you want to break fantasy norms, if you will, Hawaiian dwarves. I think that's awesome. Like one of there's 4 fantasy races, which I like traditional fantasy races. But one of the funny parts is you got your dwarves. You have 2 offsets. You have your normal mountain dwarves, the Gimlis. But then you have these like Samoan-like dwarves who like I'm going away from the mountains altogether, and you see them like wearing like grass skirts and stuff. I think that's just fantastic. Before we get to Saru, a couple questions in chat that I want to hit that are just real quick because they're not overall. Meepamis in chat says, I don't see how a game that graphically advanced won't be completely unplayable in mass open world PvP and PvE. That's not necessarily true, because graphics are generally handled on your side. Client side. Graphics should be handled client side. What you're sending to the servers is actually just like positional data, and like when you hit a button, it sends a command to your client. The client relays that to the server. The server goes, I see your action. I accept your action, rolls its dice on the back end, says, okay, this is your action, it hit, miss, whatever, sends that back and replays for your character. In terms of graphical issues, as long as the amount of calls for the server that's being generated by the client is not so much. A good example of this, Elder Scrolls Online. One of the big problems they had with open world, it was very pretty, but there was some issues with Cyrodiil. A lot of it was because of a lot of their characters were sending tons of data, such as when you put down an AoE, every tick was doing multiple calls to the server. Everyone was laying down huge amounts of these AoEs. It just was exponential, the amount of calls that was going to the server, and it couldn't handle it. That's where you were seeing server lag. As long as your rig can handle graphic-wise and their netcode is up to par, the graphics really shouldn't play a part. You can actually have bad netcode and have like a 2D game and it have lag. I mean, I had lag issues when I was playing Age of Empires with Arcaneer because of our separate, how far away we were from the server. He was sending commands and it wasn't quite getting up, at the same time, so there was latency. It doesn't necessarily mean graphics do play a part, but not all the part. Sorry, I just had to had to do that. There's another question in chat, but Isarii, what are your thoughts first?
So, from what I'm hearing, I mean, I heard all three of you, you know, what your concerns are. With you, it's the Unreal Engine, which it's kind of cool because they're building their code for the back end is custom, entirely custom, where they're using Unreal Engine 4 for the graphics, you know, for the assets, you know, and then there's talking about the lore, which is really cool because Steven's, you know, writing it along with I believe it's Jeffrey. I think, you know, they're writing it together and they're making sure that's like really, really awesome. So, you know, we've seen some snippets about it, but I'm pretty interested. So, I find that my biggest concern, I know it sounds a little bit weird and biased, I guess, but my biggest concern and I guess significant risk, as I'm reading this question again, that Intrepid will have to overcome for Ash is really listening to the community. And I know I've been speaking about the community for like the last 49 minutes, but it's true. You know, the game can be fantastic. It can be one of the best games that you can ever play. But if you don't listen to your community, if you don't listen to the feedback, if you're just going to do you know, you're just not going to, it's not going to go well. And that's the one thing that I've loved. You know, I've met a lot of cool people. You know, I've met people that have, you know, really, really changed my life. And, you know, someone in particular who, you know who you are, Wink. But, you know, they're really, really, yeah, you. But there's been really, really great people. And, you know, I want to make sure that they're heard, you know, because if you don't listen to your, it's like a company, right? If you don't listen to your customer, you know, what are you going to do? You know, you're just going to buy like a crappy thing and you're going to sell that crappy thing over and over and over again. So, that's just my biggest concern. The other thing is just minuscule. I believe that Intrepid can do it simply because I know they're gamers. I know that they've been burned in the last decade nonstop, and I know they're tired of the BS and the copy and paste and the pay to win. And I think they can make a change. And if they can't, I mean, well, that's for our generation. Bye, everyone.
Yeah,
I'm done with
good.
MMOs. Yeah, bye. But
Please don't fail us.
Exactly. So, you know, that's just my thoughts.
And Atropos actually is echoing exactly what I'm thinking. I do agree that developers need to listen to their community, but they should also not accept everything they say. I'm sorry.
Agreed. Yeah.
People are stupid. Not a person.
Yeah.
The person's smart. People are stupid. And when you get those vocal minorities, I mean, this is kind of how MMOs got to the state where they are now. Oh, I don't have time to play anymore. I want my 5-minute game. Oh, I don't want to, it takes too long for me to find a group, so why can't I do everything solo? And now we have these solo MMO experiences. I do agree. Communities are great for you to get your ideas out there, get some feedback, bring it back, but I honestly believe that they need to stick to their vision, because that's what we're all in love with, but accept the feedback of the community as a whole, not just one vocal minority. I mean, we're a vocal minority. We're doing a podcast, for crying out loud, about this shit.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, let me just clarify. So I'm not saying that they should change the game, whatever. Like originally I said, you know, stick to your vision. You know, 100%. The vision is great. I love the way that the game is going. My concern is if you see players, and I've seen this in a lot of games where a group of players will live stream or record a video of a group of players exploiting something or completely or hacking, or, you know, they're doing something that should be bannable, and then the company takes, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months, and they do absolutely nothing about it. That's what I'm talking about, you know, just the response in that sense. Oh,
you know, no, absolutely. They need to be responsive to a community and be beholden to them. I've just seen so many times, and you are right. We are talking about the same thing. They need to be responsive, but they shouldn't listen to everything, because
yeah, for sure.
I honestly say gamers are the worst at knowing what we want. We think we know what we want, but when we get it, you know, oh, I want Dungeon Finder. It'll be great.
Yeah. That's actually what I was just thinking. Is we're really bad at gauging how one feature interacts within an ecosystem of mechanics. Like,
right.
LFD is a great example. Nothing. I don't really blame. We've talked about this so many times. I don't really think LFD was that bad in that it eliminated the need to manually form groups. But what it did mean was that they had to redesign dungeons to not require communication between the groups, and that was catastrophic. You know, the days of coordinating your CC and actually talking and having any level of socialization in a dungeon was gone, and it was just chain pulls.
Right.
But we won't rehash that.
Well, and it's true, because then you also lost that social aspect of what makes MMOs great. Of if I can just do it in the Dungeon Finder where I can get it done in 15 minutes, why would I want to, hang out with these people and do it? Well, because when you hang out with the people, you form those social bonds that keep you in MMOs, not of, I'm out of content, my friends don't play, I'm done playing, right? There is those
That's why I'm kind of excited for the Discord integration, because it hasn't happened, and I think that's going to be something that really creates those bonds. At the same time, I think it's going to be interesting to see, how players interact with one another, because gamers aren't really social, so I'm pretty interested to see how it goes.
Yeah, I agree. A few more questions from chat. And chat room, you guys are fantastic. Thank you so much for being so awesome with this as we're going along. Lex Dexlia. Sorry if it's that. What do you guys think about in-game player-written books in this game? Players make the story, and every server is going to be different. So what better to record than a system where players can be authors and write their own books, which can be approved by GMs? I think that'd be pretty neat. I mean, I always liked that kind of stuff. I think Ultima Online had that, where you could write journals and diaries and stuff. I think that was neat. No? Am I the only one?
Nice in theory. Definitely one of those. Is the payoff worth the man hours in terms of actually, overlooking these features to just make sure it's not, at its tamest, the lusty Argonian maid every single time.
Well, there's a reason why on the back of the box it says online interactions are not rated by the ESRB.
Yeah, but that doesn't really mean you don't want to have quality control.
Yeah, well, that's true. Shaz Ashnir in chat. What are you guys' thoughts?
Let me. Tropos actually in chat making a great issue, raising a great point there, which is that the type of feature that really needs to be in the game to begin with? Is that something that the fan community can handle on its own?
And that's true. And actually, Tropos, I'm glad you're in chat still, because one of the things that he was saying about API for websites, that was a big thing on here that from the interview that I was really, really proud of, because we're already starting to see a couple of not big sites, but sites coming together. AOC Spot, shout out to you guys. I've already been there. People are forming these things, and I am in the Discord. I'm Aggelos in the Discord. You'll find me, and Isaari's in there too. We're all there. We are there. I actually spend a lot of time on the forums because of work and managing my own community, so kind of be split. But yeah, the website API, that would be amazing for being able to. I would love to see again, this is speculation based on what we can get for API, but API that would be able to track the status of servers. So we could see, like, server A, their nodes are here, and these are the things that are going on. We can see there's events going on this server. We can see events are going on this server. Most people probably wouldn't be as interested in every server. They'll focus on their own, but I still think it'd be something neat that you could see as an overarching story. No, man, my goodness, it's just dead silent.
I'm sorry.
Sorry,
API
I was thinking about
very
that.
exciting.
No,
I was thinking about that, the book writing, and I'm here thinking, well, it could be implemented into the forums, to be honest. And a lot of GMs would enjoy reading that, and I know a lot of the role-playing community would enjoy reading a lot of the, fan creations.
Yeah, but in-game it seems like a little bit of
hassle.
Maybe a necessary addition. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Yeah, It is one of those things of resources being put into book writing. I do like the idea. I mean, I'm all for just putting a blank slate. If I can write what I want just the same as writing a message, like in any other game that lets you send mail, why can't I just keep it permanently? And that's up to me and, go from there. But, it is what it is. Again, Shaz Ashnir in chat. What are your thoughts on massive alliances steamrolling over everything? Here's the thing that I think about these massive alliances and stuff. Alliances are something that you're gonna need, but I really don't feel like. I feel like the people that form these massive alliances, these zerg balls, don't quite have the sticking power to stay with a game that takes so long to do stuff. They want to have their zerg ball. They want to do the Elder Scrolls Online or the Dark Age of Camelot. They take a keep, they move on. the idea of having to spend weeks or months as a concerted effort, there's only a handful of guilds that will be able to do that. A lot of these bigger alliances, I think, will fall apart when they realize how much, it's going to take to put into these things. And it also depends on how they do combat. I mean, if they even do something as simple as collision detection, that could stop a lot of zergs because you can choke point them. They're stuck at a door. We put a line here. You can't get by. Just like the Battle of Thermopylae, when the Greeks and the Persians, you can nullify numbers in small areas. It all depends on the combat system. Man, just threw my history there. Isarii is very right. We are going to hop back on notes. Thank you so much, chat room, for these questions. We'll probably hop back to them in a second. But we do need to definitely move on these notes, or else Taruha will never make her way to bed.
I will literally fall asleep on camera at this point.
Right. Obviously the interview was amazing. You should definitely check it out. I'm super excited for it. And, man, it was fantastic. But we got a lot of other news. We're going to go ahead and move right on into what we were talking about earlier. Hobo Gamer, Ashes of Creation. Everything you need to know about Ashes of Creation. No need to dwell. No. Sorry, you wrote that article.
Yeah,
let's talk about that a bit.
Oh, okay. But I wrote No Need to Dwell. Yeah, so the Hobo Gamer series is something I kicked off after I made my exit from the Elder Scrolls Online community, more or less. I've kind of gotten back into it a couple years after. But it was kind of, thus the name Hobo Gamer was my search for a new home. So I've done a bunch of overviews of different MMOs that I find interesting in that time, where I really just try to get as much detail and everything you really need to know about the game into one not entirely succinct place. They usually come out, they've kind of gotten bigger and bigger over the years, so this one's probably about like 6,000 words or so, but I've got quotes. But if you're new to Ashes of Creation, definitely this is like a good place to start. I think most of you that are listening to this are not new to Ashes of Creation, but this is probably a good thing to link your friends. So yeah, I think it'd be really useful. I'm not participating in the referral program, so it's not like that. They're not going to get hit with a link at the end, but just go have a look. It pretty much says a lot of the high-level stuff, not all the details, but all the big game systems are kind of covered and explained within it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you can find that at errantpenman.com and in the description, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. I'll have a link to this in the podcast description as well. But I will do a little, not shameless promoting because it's not me. While Isarii is part of DCN for podcast, he is his own man when it comes to writing. And actually, one of the things that I love, and I always promote his articles, is he's just a really damn good writer. Like, I really enjoy his shit. So check it out. I mean, it's fantastic. I cannot write for crap, obviously you guys have seen my notes and random crap that I do. But yeah, no, he's very succinct in his writing, a lot of thought into it, and I love all of his stuff. Go check it out. Big news, Kickstarter hit, reached their goal of 750,000 in less than 12 hours, which we talked about. Guys,
it's insane. Yeah. I mean, I didn't really expect that, to be honest, but with their like promotional videos and stuff, I can understand it. Like, they have pretty pictures to show and video footage and stuff, so makes it more believable.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
easier to connect to.
Saru, how about you? What are your thoughts on the Kickstarter? Trying to
yeah, I know. I'm sorry. It's just I'm like dazzled just watching you guys. Like, wow, this chemistry is just beautiful. But no, okay. So the Kickstarter was amazing. I mean, I did a little live stream before it, to make sure that everybody got a little hyped and saw it, and the video and everything. What I love about this, it's not the fact that it's reached $1 million in under 36 hours. It's the fact they've spent only $1,000 on marketing and advertisements. Everything else is just based on word of mouth from the gamers, from the players who are excited for the game. So that's where the referral system, I think, is fantastic, because you're making people look at this game. And so, it's really mind-blowing that you could reach $750,000 in 11 hours, 7 minutes, and 20 seconds, I believe it was.
Yep.
and 1 million in under 36, and now it's almost 1,200,000. So it's I wish I had that much.
And one of the things I praise them on is the fact, and I've talked to other indie development studios who did not do so well. And one of the things is preparation. They did not just go to Kickstarter with concepts. I mean, they did, obviously, but they actually took time to show videos of what in-game looks like. Obviously, there's a lot of work to do. There's netcode they're writing, stuff like that. So there's all that back work, but at least they had something tangible. Another, Crowfall did really well. Why? They had something tangible, like something that at least people thought was tangible when they came to it. If you come in with just concepts like, oh, here's my concept art, I could pay an artist to do concept art and make make something look great. Do I actually know anything about it? Not really. So,
I don't know if anyone actually watched the video when it came out, like the Kickstarter, but like I hadn't seen the video, and the mods usually like watch the videos in advance, and we didn't see it, so I watched it, and at the end of it, the 12 minutes, I was like, God damn, this was inspiring. Fuck, I want to buy it now. The music, everything was beautiful.
Yeah, the music is like really.
I know. I really wish they had the music in the press kit so that I could use it for YouTube videos.
Sorry. When I first asked you to come on the podcast, didn't you and I talk for like 20 minutes about the music, going, "Oh my goodness, it's so good."
It's really so beautiful.
Yeah,
it pulls you in,
It really does. I know that feeling you're saying. Like while they were talking, they had the music playing. By the end, I was hyped. I was hyped, man.
I was inspired. I was like, yeah, no, but we talked about it. I mean, music. I think it's a really, really important part of games because it creates the atmosphere and completely brings you into a different reality. So we talked a bit about that, on DMs and all that stuff. So yeah, no, it's really fantastic.
Absolutely, and I mean, I'm glad they jumped on the dev goals. Are the like you said, they passed 1 million this morning after 2 days, and I was actually talking with Steven right before we went live, and I mean, tentatively he was very excited about where he's at, and he's like, I honestly, and I said the same thing. I'm like, you guys are going to hit your next goal super soon, and he's like, well, at the rate we're going, more or less, we might hit it by tomorrow or the day after if the rate keeps up where it's at. And I mean, it's neat when you see these Kickstarters because obviously a lot of the upfront is in like the first few days. A lot of Kickstarters will cancel.
Before we get too far off that. I think stretch goals are an interesting topic on their own because I know I've seen a little bit of pushback to whenever a Kickstarter comes out and has stretch goals, and I think some people are kind of salty about them, especially because just they're afraid of the game turning into a Star Citizen type situation. And by the way, I'm actually fully behind Star Citizen in terms of supporting their continual feature creep. So I don't mean this is too much of a bad thing because in that game, the feature creep is kind of the point of the game. But I've seen some comments, especially over at Massively OP, where people are concerned about seeing stretch goals, and that they say they wish that Ashes of Creation had not gone that route at all. And should I just throw that to you guys? Personally, I don't agree with them at all, but I'll let you guys respond if you want.
You need to have a way of continuing funding. And they pretty much came out and said this even during the video. They're self-funded. They want to expand their game and make it bigger. Like you said, one of their stretch goals included expanded naval combat, meaning that they already planned to have it at least in some form. But again, a lot of this takes money for even, let's just say toss away money. Toss away money in my mind is artist. Most artists aren't generally tied to one company. They freelance. They jump back and forth. They work on this project till it's done. They go, and go from there. But artists aren't necessarily cheap. And this doesn't just include concept artists. I'm talking like modelers, stuff like that. It takes money to get these people in here. And one of the extended naval content is more ships. You need modelers to design them and build them. Having this extra money will allow them to literally go, hey, we're hiring you, make us 3 more ships. These are attainable goals that you can have in game, and it also gives people the incentive of, like, literally, you hit 750,000, right? If you have no stretch goals, what makes other people really want to jump into it? Because a lot of the people that I've seen, and obviously this is the Kickstarter mentality, is Why do I want to back this? I just wait till it comes out. Well, rewards are a way of doing it. These things that you can get are a way of doing it to show off and be exclusive when the game comes out of, I back this, you know? I guess whoever else wants to jump in next. Man, everyone's so polite. Like,
what's the
we're trying to be
concern?
better.
I know you guys are doing fantastic too with me trying to be better, but I mean, my goodness, as now everyone's so polite, we're just not going to talk.
So I think the concern is that people are afraid of feature creep, kind of having devs bite off more than they can chew, and or running into a situation like Star Citizen where a release date becomes more of a theoretical nicety than something anybody actually believes in. So.
I get the worry.
I guess my own thoughts on that are one, stretch goals are a fantastic way to bring in more money. Otherwise, people are just going to stop giving as soon as you hit the 100% funded mark. And two, as long as you're being realistic about it, I don't think it's that big of a problem. The Ashes goals are like the first one we hit was mini games in taverns. I mean, that's not a big deal at all. Multiplayer mounts, not a big deal. More boats than we already have. It's not entirely new systems that are going in. It's just sort of expanding existing ones. And I think that's a really smart, non-risky way to go about stretch goals. And then the other thing is a lot of the time stretch goals are just things that you want to put into the game anyway, and we're probably going to do anyway, but look really good in a Kickstarter.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Excuse me,
real
but
talk.
You skipped the most important bit, which was kittens and puppies.
The kittens and puppies, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How could you skip the kittens and puppies?
We were getting there.
It's because they're a backer goal more than a funding goal. But yeah, you're totally right.
We were in a huge argument this morning on Discord.
Good timing,
what was
Kat.
better, cats or dogs? I'm like, how could you?
Ooh.
Dogs.
And they're like, can we have ducks instead? I'm like,
Ducks.
no, I love cats.
Medium.
Dogs. I don't know if you guys saw my corgi when he was sitting on the couch. His name is Doomhowl, and I would love to have him immortalized in game.
I know you've all seen my cat because she shows up in every podcast I do.
Because she's on the screen right now.
Oh yeah,
I love that timing.
Yeah,
Did someone say cats?
Literally just sitting here like, I'm going to be on the screen. That's how it works. Yeah,
So
I mean, go ahead.
Well, I was going to move on completely, so...
Yeah, sorry, your next point.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, if you don't have anything to say. I've got two other things that I thought were really interesting from the Kickstarter before we move on, unless other people have other things to bring up. The first one was the archetype breakdown itself, which I am pulling up here, and I'm going to link it in the stream since we have so many people here live today. Hell yeah, stream.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if you look at the archetypes, let me look. I think the Rogue was a really good example of this. The Rogue is a master of opportunity, using skill, positioning, and the environment to dish out frightening amounts of damage. In their downtime, they provide solid utility, helping their friends navigate dangers otherwise unseen. And that second clause I find to be really interesting. And you see a lot of that in the other descriptions as well, like if we look at the mage. In a world of high magic, no party would be complete without a mage. Master the arcane, they bring terrible elements to bear in devastating spells. And then, if reality needs changing in some fashion, ask a mage to help. And I think to that part of one of the first gameplay trailers they showed us, where the mage character is clearing an obstacle with magic. So what I want to throw out here is we're seeing this on several of these classes where it appears to be describing non-combat utilities as an important part of the class identity. Discuss.
No, I agree. Go ahead, Taruha.
Oh, yeah, okay. I think that's amazing. Like, if you have stuff like this, it promotes more variety instead of everyone going one type of archetype or one type of class. So, yeah, if it's really if these little descriptions are important abilities to add to your like PvE or PvP experience, then it definitely promotes a more varied choice of classes to be played, essentially, which is amazing.
Telchar Gaming in chat is saying that at some point in Discord, the developers said that every class will have a specific ability to break some sort of trap or environmental hazard. He said he could dig up the link if we need it. I mean, it'd be handy, but he's been saying stuff all night. It's been pretty handy, so I'm inclined to trust him.
Yep.
One other thing that I thought about was, this is something I think we talked about in our Crowfall episode, the quiet moments in terms of design downtime where players are allowed to socialize, and how we think that's important to sort of community building in an MMO. If non-combat utility and traps and things like that are something we're seeing making a real impact on the way that people play the games, like if in a dungeon finding traps and they're in different places when you're in there, just interacting with the environment, if you have to slow down for a moment to do that, that provides a real good opportunity for people to actually have to talk to each other and slow down, and for friendships to be made in the game again. So I find that really, really interesting, really, really promising, and it ties in really well with lots of Saru's comments earlier about community.
Yeah, no, community is very important. Taro, go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to say anything. I was agreeing with you guys.
An affirmation. Yeah, community is what makes MMOs. It's what makes MMOs sticky, too. Content is important, but building content that takes community, I mean, obviously with DCN, we're for community, and a lot of times, when games kind of made us a little upset, we've stuck with them. Maybe not necessarily for the game itself as much as for the amazing community that we've created around it.
Yeah.
It's something that you can look past flaws. I'm not saying Ashes will, but it's a good thing like you're bringing up that community is important, because people will be more likely to look past flaws if they have another reason that's more important for them to stay. If you're playing by yourself and you see nothing but flaws, why would you stay?
Yeah.
If you're playing with friends and stuff like that, you can look past some things because, hey, these guys make it better. Oh, there's a bug. We all laugh at it together as a guild. It's awesome. It's very important. Community is important, and being able to form those social aspects are important. And someone made mention in chat, and I'm sorry I can't remember the name, and it was a good observation that in modern days people make connections via social media. Now that's true, but it's not always the same, And
it shouldn't be that way. And that was Diggs, I believe.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that way. Like, social media is great for sticking together and following stuff afterwards and stuff like that. But you can, I can't tell you how many Facebook friends I have that I haven't talked to in a decade or more, and if they were like, hey, why don't you come over to my house or something, I'd be like, do I really like you that much,
Fuck my Facebook friends, but my Twitter friends for my gaming exclusive Twitter, they're my real homies. Facebook, everybody on Facebook is dumb.
Wow, thanks. But anyway, no. On top of
I don't have you on Facebook.
I don't have you on Facebook.
No, I don't mean everybody uses. I have Facebook as well. It's just all of my friends on it just post dumb stuff.
Yeah, and there's that certain level of community and disconnect that's not when you're sharing a shared experience, such as a game. It builds stronger relationship. You could claim that Twitter's a shared experience, but it's not, because while we may be connected, you may be looking at something or filter your Twitter feed different than what I would. It's not a shared experience. It's like being on a subway. We're on a subway together, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to the same place. Yeah. In a game, you are.
Yeah.
Wow.
I also, for what it's worth, I think that players making their social bonds outside of the game isn't good for the health of the game itself. Because it doesn't tie them to the game. Once guilds move to being multi-game guilds that hop between games, I think that was really harmful for the stickiness of MMOs. And a lot of that is because MMOs aren't designed for you to make friends in games anymore. You go to an MMO, you play with your out-of-game guild, you play with your Twitter friends, and it doesn't hold you to the game at all.
It is true. And Telcar Gaming in chat, you do have a blessing with Discord, and we do use Discord as a community thing too, and it is amazing, but it's amazing for the community outside, but not necessarily the health of the game. It's really not, because again, you can disconnect even with I'm glad they're using Discord, integrated in the game, but at the same time, that does create a level of disconnect. Whereas I'm playing in the game, great, but I could have 50 other servers. I could be in my Overwatch server for all I care, talking to people there. Does that make me connected with Ashes? No.
So what you're saying is that it creates some discord between the members.
Oh, man.
The pun is
That's a
there.
good
Sorry for
one.
the night, everybody.
And on that note, go ahead.
No, I did
Go
want
ahead.
to say something. Okay, so the thing with Ashes of Creation, what I love about it is, it has that guild stuff, whatever. I mean, I have a guild there, whatever. But the cool thing is, like, if you want to build a node or if you want to destroy it, you all have to work together, or else you're not going to progress anywhere. And that's what I love, because they're pushing you to work together. And so I love that, you're mentioning the stickiness for communities and games, because it's trying to force that on people, where it's like you have to work together in order to siege, or in order to build up a node, or in order to do this or that or this or that. So I think that's really fantastic. Even the electoral system or the gladiator system, everything, I think it's cool.
Excellent. It is definitely true. Fantastic points. I love it. Sorry, you had one more thing.
Yeah, I'm moving on before we do a 4-hour show. Taruha falling asleep when the sun comes up on her continent.
If we do a 4-hour show, the sun will come up on my continent.
Okay, yeah, true.
The sun is already coming up.
It's only 8 p.m. here. So, so this is unhype. This is me being upset. So I started a big, exciting discussion in the Ashes of Creation Discord that was, I think, wildly misunderstood, except for a couple people who kind of got what I was trying to say. They have character creation options as backer unique rewards, and that could go a lot of ways. We have no idea what it is. It could be like a dozen hairstyles, which would be annoying, or it could be like a Kickstarter tattoo. Like, we have no idea. But apparently one of the things that they've clarified in the Discord is that these are not going to be Kickstarter exclusive. So we don't know if that means, again, it could be just a backer tattoo that anybody can get, or it could mean that, on day one, somebody hasn't backed the game, doesn't have access to this particular unlock, they log into character creation, and the first thing they see is SWTOR style, insert your credit cards for this portion of the character creation slider. And that, it's great that Steven is so adamantly anti-pay to win. I think that's way more important than cosmetics, but cosmetics are really important, and I think that having sort of a paywall before people even get into the game, where they're being prompted to insert their credit card for full access to the experience, and we don't know if that's what they're doing, by the way. This is, again, a series of speculative comments. If that's what's happening, though, if that's what we're seeing described here, and I'd really like clarification on this to know for sure, that would be really tacky, and that would be potentially worrisome in terms of what types of cosmetic monetization we're going to see as the game moves into launch.
Right.
So there's my little bit tinfoily, but my concern. I didn't like seeing that item there. I don't mind, by the way, cosmetics being there, obviously. Like, the horses, cool. Costume, awesome. Titles, great. But seeing something where somebody will go into the game and see something, available in a UI element or something like that they don't have access to and have to pay to unlock, if that's what they mean by non-Kickstarter exclusive, that would be troubling.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And Narlanx in chat says, good point. We all know about Ashes of Creation, a lot to be excited for, but what have you heard that you don't like? There are things we don't like. I've actually expressed my concern right away to Steven when he's like, yeah, we'll have a cash shop. I'm like, oh. Like, I don't like those ideas. I'm from a very old school MMO where everything was in game. Now, I know more of a modern thing is to have one of these things, and it's why I even pushed the question during the interview of, tell me there's going to be a balance. Because here's, ESO had this, and people are like, oh, it's just cosmetics, it's just cosmetics. Isarii wrote an amazing article about cosmetics as a form of retention for games and a reward by doing something that was awesome. Remember once upon a time when you were able to complete hard raid or capture something in PvP, be an arena champion, and you get something special that isn't more powerful than anyone else to create balance, but was an aesthetic reward to show off a mount, a costume. That when you saw someone walking around with that mount or that costume on, you're like, oh wow, they're an arena champion. You know, it was something to show off. Having rewards in game that you can earn, cosmetics, because here's the thing, and in this game specifically, gear is not a good reward. It's not, because A, this reward breaks, right? So it will fall apart over time, which is good for the economy, but it falls apart over time. B, gear is a constant power creep that you hit a point where you're like, this ain't special anymore, or it loses its value when you get the next thing. Oh, I got a great sword. Oh, that's a great sword +1. Oh, throw it away. But cosmetics are something that you can keep forever and show off and be like, yeah, I have this.
Yeah.
You know.
Another good point, by the way, is the way that relates to content. If a dungeon rewards eye level 100 gear and you're now currently at level 110, the gear is no incentive to return to that piece of content. If the last boss drops a mount,
Yeah.
you'll always want to go back for that mount. And one other thing on that point, sorry, I'll shut up in just a second, is in terms of drop rates, if your best in slot piece of gear in a dungeon is 0.3%, as some mounts sometimes are, your players are going to lose their fucking shit, and they will not grind for that. You can't get players to do a dungeon 1,000 times for a chance at the bracers of flame wielding or whatever. Right. But they'll do it for Invincible, the Lich King's horse,
which I've done a bunch. Yeah,
I got that after like 10 runs. I'm a dick.
I don't care. I got Ashes of Alar from my. But I actually want to point something out.
That's true. You and I got all the mounts in like a week.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Oh, one last because it segs in perfectly. Sorry. And so the way I think about it is players will put in hundreds of hours into these games to get these cosmetic unlocks. I have, Aggelos has. Yeah. Maybe not for an individual item, but for all of the different mounts and the different, transmog appearances and, title works, things like that. I've gone after 4 cosmetics. It's been easily hundreds of hours in different MMOs. Every time one of those is put in the cash shop, all of the time that I would have put into earning that through a rep grind or grinding a boss or whatever other way it's achieved, the achievement it comes from, all of those hours are effectively being removed from the amount of time which I can play the game. It's just being taken away. So if I'm paying a subscription for this game, they need to be able to keep me happy pretty much whenever I want to play the game. And cosmetics are a fantastic way of keeping people busy and keeping people happy. So basically, my point is, cosmetics do matter. It's easy to say, no, cosmetics don't affect gameplay. They do. They are literally hours of gameplay for thousands, hundreds of thousands of players who, even if you aren't one of them, you want paying a subscription for this game if you want to keep playing it and you want it to be profitable.
Excuse me. Oh, sorry about that.
There's my full spiel.
Cough. I actually want to address something that Atropos said in chat for clarification for anyone watching that. He was mentioning that, given the importance of nodes and player housing, that they have node or player house related items in the cash shop. That's kind of argue it's pay to win. Are you talking about cash shop? Or are you referring to the Kickstarter rewards? Because those Kickstarter rewards, all the houses that you can build in game, from what I understand, this doesn't have freestyle building like WildStar. You essentially buy a pre-done house and it develops by itself. What the rewards are in the Kickstarter package, these like freehold stuff, is a unique freehold skin. So let's say when you place a freehold, my mill is made out of marble while everyone else's are made out of flagstone. So it shows that I was a kid. You still have to earn the house in-game to use the skin. It's not like I bought it.
Just to expand about that, I do think we know a little bit about how freeholds are built based on sort of jumbling together a couple of different comments about different game systems. My understanding about it is when you're trying to develop a node or a house within a node or a freehold, you kind of place down a blueprint. And that might be where your skin comes into play. And I think a minimal amount of resources go into placing that blueprint, possibly nothing. after that, you're going to be escorting caravans and caravans of materials to build that house. It's not going to be like, boom, you drop a house from your Kickstarter back, it's done.
Yeah.
You're going to have to get the resources there and build it, and it will be very similar to building a house in ArcAge or a ship in ArcAge. And I think that's a game that's been really influential in the development of this game, both in terms of it had a lot of great system ideas, and it had some really stupid, awful monetization ideas that they want to avoid.
Absolutely. I honestly think if we see any kind of housing related stuff in there, I'm honestly just hoping that everything that's in the cash shop, there needs to be a balance, or they need to be able to get it in game, and that if someone
or at least something similar, if not the exact same thing.
Yeah, I agree. It's just something that I'm sitting here going, ESO did it wrong with their cash shop. Everything.
Yeah.
Like, when they released a new content patch, they might have 1 or 2 cosmetics, but then every month they release like 12. World of Warcraft did it better, where they released like 95% of all their cosmetics in game, and then every like 6 months they might throw a mount in there. I'm fine with that. Maybe not quite, make money, maybe not quite as strict as World of Warcraft, but definitely nothing along the lines of ESO, where there was nothing you could earn in game. It was all what you could play with your credit card. Yeah. Housing related stuff, again, if you can buy housing, I honestly don't think any of that's going to happen. Maybe if you buy housing, you can buy, again, from one of their main videos, it's not like you can even buy a castle, because the big houses in the game, how the housing is supposed to work is when the node hits a town stage, they will spawn 10 small houses you can buy. There are 10 small houses that you really can't change, but as the node levels up, they become a medium house, and then 5 more small houses spawn. So only the houses that were started at the beginning are actually big, or at least for the in-node housing. So they grow from there. It's not like you can buy the houses in-game. And then, of course, you can buy instance like apartment things that grant citizenship. Freehold's the only thing that's kind of up in the air with what you can buy, but I'm imagining what Freehold is similar to ArcAge's housing system, where you buy an 8x8 plot of land, and anything you can fit in that 8x8 plot of land, you can build. A castle may take up 8x8.
Pretty much what it sounds like, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Can we appreciate the fact there will be no RNG boxes?
Oh, thank God.
Thank God.
Oh, you don't know the choir you're preaching to right now.
No, yeah. Let's not.
You've opened a can of worms. Is that the right way of saying it?
Let's all just agree on that and then move on.
Yeah.
Moment I kept bugging him about it. I was like, will there be RNG boxes? For the love of God, tell us. He's like, who said there's going to be any? I was like, oh.
Yo, thank God.
Wait, he said there's going to be any.
Yeah, there's not going to be.
So he didn't say there's definitely never ever. I promise, 100%. There's never going to be any loot boxes.
Well, he said who said there's going to be any in a fun
like a
like a sarcastic, and then he said I actually ArcAge made me load RNG monetization gimmicks such as RNG boxes. So yeah, kind of good.
Oh boy.
I definitely
one of the things, by the way, that I like that he said that I'm going to get in here now is, we're talking about the way Cash Shop can impact the game in ways that most people don't consider pay to win, and housing plots potentially. That's what got us into this. Can be one of those things. He has talked about even things like Plex in Eve, where you can buy your subscription and trade trade a subscription to another player essentially for in-game currency. Steven considers that to be pay to win, and it's one of the things he specifically said the referral system was designed to avoid. Mm-hmm. So I think he's got a bar that's pretty low as far as what he considers pay to win and doesn't want to have in the game. And I'm thinking, again, we don't have 100% confirmation, but it sounds like any sort of cash shop to currency transaction.
We do actually have a confirmation on that. He did say in Discord where you will not be able to trade them or sell them or anything of that nature.
There you go. And that's something I kind of have mixed feelings on, because that does give you a way to create those gameplay hours by earning them through trade. But I like that he considers that pay to win and doesn't want to do it. So I think that's a really promising sign that's probably more important. And as long as they can hit that good balance of what's in a cash shop versus what's an earnable in-game cosmetic reward, fine.
Mm-hmm.
Small price to pay.
And Atropos, I wanted to shout this out because we were talking about what he was just saying. He wanted to clarify because I wasn't quite getting. He's like, I'm not worried about buildings or freeholds themselves. I'm envisioning a scenario where, like, you can buy in the cash shop an NPC to live on your freehold that provides banking, auction house, teleportation services. You know, based on I will agree that would be a problem since all of those things are supposed to be in Node. And specifically, like, teleportation, which we, you know, in the Node video, they said teleportation would only exist if, and I think someone just dropped, I don't know who, Sour.
Oh, it was Sour.
All right, we'll probably rejoin. Hopefully before the cameras get funky. Teleportation, there's limited open world travel, like that fast travel, unless you have a specific node, and even then it's still only kind of limited to within that zone of influence. So if you were able to get something that would allow you to do one of these things, yeah, that would be a problem, and yeah, I agree, that could be a concern. Speaking of nodes, Metropolis government types, scientific node being democratic in their video. Divine node allocates the leaders based on service-oriented quest. Economic node is run by an elite oligarchy with positions that be bought and sold by players. And militaristic nodes are, you know, the big strong guys. Sorry, you mentioned this already, that you love the fact that they're splitting government up.
Mm.
Right? Yes, I think that's really interesting. Yep, okay. I was upset that there, you know, you have in the economic node you can have sort of an oligarchy where someone's personal wealth determines their ability to rule, and there isn't a communist node. I would like to see a glorious proletariat revolution mechanic to overthrow the oligarchies myself, but. Maybe that can be expansion content.
Maybe expansion content.
Ashes of Creation, the Red Menace.
Oh my goodness.
Sign me up.
Now Narlex. Okay. Yeah, no, I did like that, and it will attract various players, you know, like why certain players will attract to specific areas. Democratic nodes being voting for stuff. I don't know. I imagine a lot of streamers and stuff will probably start there because they can get a lot of votes, right? Divine nodes, you know, you do service-based quests. Economic nodes, you know, those who like to play the market. And, of course, then you got your PvP nutballs who like the militaristic ones. So, you know.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's really cool, actually, that there's a choice, sort of.
You know, I will say one of the comments that developers have made, speaking in retrospect, about my favorite MMO, Star Wars Galaxies, is that the game sort of forced you to roleplay with its in-game mechanics, with the way, you know, you could be a shopkeeper, and that you know, if you were a shopkeeper running a shop, that's kind of an RP thing, even if you're not thinking about RPing. Just the way you're playing the game sort of organically forced you to roleplay. Politicians were in player cities, probably an even bigger version of that. And this looks like that on an epic scale. Mm-hmm. You know, with the different node types. I think it's really cool. Apparently, in the religious node types, to be a religious leader, you have to undergo quests, maybe like proving your altruism or something like that. You know, maybe we'll see what it turns out to be. It could be like a real life religious tile where it's actually just oligarchy again. But you never know how it's going to work out.
Mm-hmm. The internet's a scary place.
Yeah, and we'll move on to the next bit of our thing, but I think you skipped ahead in the notes, because you even have in the notes, Isarii talks about Star Wars Galaxies again. If this is your first time coming on to Dungeon Crawlers, I think we had a game once where we counted how many times you mentioned Star Wars Galaxy. I think you're up to like...
It was over 20.
24 times in one episode, yeah. So it's his favorite.
And they were all relevant. All of them.
Mm-hmm. So it was impressive.
One of these times we're going to have a drinking game. Anytime that Isarii says anything about Star Wars Galaxies, everyone has to take a shot. I think we should
totally do a drinking podcast one day.
That would be awesome.
Get drunk in 5 minutes.
I think we'd be in the hospital.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So, MMOGames interview with Isarii. We have a couple big highlights from that one. Sorry, if you want to take these.
Yeah, one of my I've just got a couple takeaways from this, but I had my second interview with Steven on MMOGames actually, and here, my two highlights that I wanted to talk about that haven't kind of been covered to death in the Kickstarter discussion already was one of the things we know is that they're looking to have darkness as an environmental obstacle, and press T for torch has kind of become a meme in the community Discord already, and I think that's so awesome. I have in the notes written Lanterns of Skyrim hype, because so many of us are from the Elder Scrolls community on this podcast. But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think about that? Having truly dark nights and dungeons, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I think it sounds really immersive. And anything that makes me feel immersed and feel like I'm in a real space sort of improves my ability to feel a part of the game. So,
and to go back to the out of non-combat related class mechanics, the mage Lumos or whatever it is they're going to end up calling it is another example of that we've already seen. All spells are Harry Potter spells in my mind.
Expelliarmus. No, sorry.
Yeah.
You gotta mean it.
I thought
though,
it was
sorry.
Flipendo.
Gotta mean it. Gotta mean it.
You
what
said
about you,
something,
Saru?
Sar?
What about me? Sorry. Flipendo. Oh god, please.
Flipendo.
Yeah, I played every single game for an entire week, and I streamed it, and that was an experience I will have nightmares about. So, what was the question? I apologize. My internet cut out. I have a tendency to kick my power supply.
The question was about whether or not you like super dark, like making dark immersive and a real reason to be there.
That's hard. I mean, dark as in you're not evil, but is that what you mean?
No, like actual environmental darkness. Like it's nighttime or you're in a cave and you can't see shit.
Well, you know what? I wanted to talk about this a little bit when you guys were bringing up the what's it called, the class descriptions. So in the videos, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the mage, she had the ability to throw a fireball at this big pile of wood, which would light up the entire room. So I find that it's cool because maybe they're adding a lot of mechanics into the game where you need to utilize each class to maybe light up an entire area or be able to use it, to its full functionality. So I think I do think it's cool as long as it's not too dark, because you have that whole T for torch thing, but it depends how limited it is, right? Because I definitely want to see how it's implemented into the game.
Right.
Yeah. By the way, that was going to be my next point. If nobody else brought it up, was the component for social interaction there is just fantastic. If you either have to have a mage with you or a mage subclass to spam the light, or somebody has to think ahead and actually bring torches, I think that type of interplay between environmental hazards and each class's benefits, or just straight up RPG, getting your shit together before you go into a dungeon is awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And Steven mentioned in that interview that he thought it would, because UE4 is so good at handling lighting, he thought it would almost be criminal if they didn't.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys noticed some of the particle effects for the little light ball that he uses for the torch was really, really pretty. I know he showed us early on it was really glitchy, but once he showed up the video for the what do you call it, pre-alpha of mages, something right alone, I don't know, and it looks really nice. It's just this little ball of light with little particles around.
Yeah, I know, it looks really good. Everything about this game looks really good, pretty much.
Yeah.
Although me and Aggelos have mixed feelings on the mage's attire, I guess.
Yeah.
A little bit of hype for that Rogue video coming out this week.
Oh, that Rogue! Yeah, I don't know if the people in the chat listening to this have seen it yet, but oh my god, I believe I described that as what ESO wishes their Britain hero armor looked like in their wildest dreams. It looks fantastic.
It does look fantastic. Yeah, I think as soon as you saw it in Discord, you were sending me a message going, "Oh my goodness!" Yeah, it is.
Sploosh.
It is pretty awesome. I gotta admit that.
So my second thing that I wanted to talk about, which a lot of people have sort of ran with at this point, is sort of the idea of finite resources in the world. I think this is really interesting, and more importantly, it reminds me of Star Wars Galaxies.
Drink!
The quote from the article was, "We really want resources to be persistent and non-renewable. If there's a mithril vein, that mithril vein will be there until it runs out. The server will manage these amounts on its own," because I asked him how it works, "and will repopulate things when and where it desires. You might find another mithril vein in that location sometimes later, or somewhere nearby, or maybe never again." So I think that's been... I actually answered a question in the chat about this during the interview, because people are like, finite resources, that's how it was explained at first. What happens when they're all gone? And Star Wars Galaxies used a very similar system where it was a big part of your supply chain, which was really important because resources were ungodly complicated in that game, where being able to find the best resources for your crafter was a huge deal. And part of the way you made that system really impactful was, instead of doing like a little node where you go up to it and you spend 2 seconds mining 5 iron and then you move on, you drop a giant node that people are going to work on for days and weeks. And that's what this is going to be. So it's not that the resources are never gone, it's that it's a giant pile of resources that you work away at, and it sort of becomes a little gold rush type hub where everybody's setting up extractors, which is what it would be in Star Wars Galaxies, around this area and pumping it dry. And then when it's dry, the server puts something else somewhere else, and people find it. So the world economy is never empty of resources, but there's a much more interesting gathering mechanic because of the persistent nature of these nodes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it does actually drive that economy area that you were mentioning earlier of, if that node that you built if that node of ore, that vein of ore dries up that you built your entire city around, well, you still need some way of getting it back. So what do? You make trade agreements with people who still have some. Hey, I might not have ore anymore, but I have fish. I have this. I will trade you X of this for some of that. That's what you do, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
You will definitely see people fighting over resources in a way that's completely different than, oh, that guy's going for my node, let me kill him before he can finish his cast time. What areas a guild has control over is going to be really important because of the way resources are being handled here. It's a really great mechanic that's going to have a lot of social and PvP impacts.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I have a feeling it's going to be pretty vicious.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh my god, the sun did come up on her.
It did.
Yeah, I
just saw that in the chat.
There's sun right there. That's the sun.
You're a trooper.
You are a trooper. All right, so we got 2 more points we're going to do before we end the show. Thank you so much, Taruha. You are a trooper. First off, Reddit being what Reddit is.
Oh god.
Reddit is a great place for people that don't know what they're talking about to sound like they are. You really appreciate Reddit until you go into a thread that's talking about something you have expertise in personally.
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly use Reddit for news. That's literally all. I don't really read much else, but people are pretty quick to post articles and stuff of legit news sites, not their stuff, whatever. So it's easier to find there. But anyway, Reddit seems to think that the referral system is some sort of pyramid scheme. For those of you, a lot of people who are watching this live already know, but there are people in our community who may not know. The referral system in Ashes of Creation is whenever you refer a player, whatever they spend on the game, just like an Amazon referral link, by the way, they don't see any increase. They're still spending $15 a month, but instead of Amazon, or in this case Intrepid, getting the full 15, they're taking 15% of that, which comes out to $2 and some odd cents, and depositing it into your account that you can either do one of two things with. You can use that money just like you would Blizzard Cash or anything like that on there, or any of that stuff to either pay for your subscription or any in-game cash shop items, or you could cash it out at any point that you would like. Subject to taxes.
Before we move on from that point, not everybody probably knows this. I used to work in finance in digital media for a very large website that I won't name. But I have seen hundreds of arrangements exactly like this. Amazon is the big one. Anytime you see an Amazon link on a website, they've got that kind of setup for like a 6 to 7% return probably. And if they don't, they're dumb. I think the best point to really like illustrate how common this is Skimlinks, which is a company, because there are so many of these agreements that you can't possibly have them all yourself, that will scan your content, and if it sees somewhere where it could insert a link through an affiliate relationship that they have but you don't, they will insert the link and give you a cut of their affiliate return. That's how common these are. There are so many of these arrangements all the time. It's not new to gaming. Us content creators have had access to them forever, but the G2A link's very common. You see them in like half of the gaming YouTubes out there. That's the biggest example. But Intrepid is the first to come along. Actually, they're not. Eve did it too. But Intrepid is one of the first to come along and sort of democratize this, where they make the system available to everybody. So this is literally the exact same thing that's been done for years on the internet, and is a very common part of marketing online. So I never even thought this was going to be something that was going to raise a red flag for people, because I've seen this so many times. But it is, and I understand it, by the way. I think if this is new to you, it does look a little weird. So some people who don't know what referral programs or pyramid schemes are decided that this was a pyramid scheme. Now, if you're not familiar with pyramid schemes, the defining feature of a pyramid scheme is that it requires you to buy into it first. So you buy 5,000 units of product to sell, and then turns out it's hard to sell that because they make you buy a whole bunch at once. So what you do is you recruit, through a multi-level marketing scheme, a whole bunch of people under you to sell. So you then sell it to you, take your part, take your cut, they try to sell it, and then they've got less margin to work with, and then maybe they get stuck with it, and maybe they sell it to legitimate customers. I mean, there are companies that are really successful with multi-level marketing, like Mary Kay, that aren't evil. But maybe they don't sell it, maybe they get another person down the line, and pieces of the pie get slower and slower, or smaller and smaller as you keep going, while the people at the top of the pyramid make the most of the return. Crucially, by the way, first of all, big thing, Ashes does not require buy-in. It can't be a pyramid scheme. That's not how it works. Second of all, if the person you refer, so you're person A, you refer to person B, you get their $15 a month, 15% of their $15. If they refer a person C, that doesn't flow back up like it does in a pyramid scheme. In fact, it works the opposite way, because their $2 from that person's subscription that they get kicked back to them reduces what they're paying in a subscription, and then you get less return as a result of them actually paying less, because then they're paying, let's say, 13 is what it would be. So you are only getting the 15% of that 13. So that's something that Stephen brought up in his rebuttal, because he did go to Reddit and address this, which essentially, it doesn't work like a pyramid at all. It works the opposite.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I don't know. This is something that has a lot of people on edge, and if you feel on edge, don't back the game. Like I wouldn't ever say go out and you should always be going into a Kickstarter, first of all, just thinking I'm throwing away money on a dream, because you are. Yeah. I hate it when people use the term invest to talk about this, because you're not investing. You're throwing away money at a dream. But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't work like a pyramid. There's no buy-in. There's no real risk. It's just, and it looks like every other affiliate marketing program on the internet. So there are definitely areas where I have concerns, and I think we've talked about most of them so far. This ain't one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't most MMOs have referral programs anyways? Like, I know I don't want to say the word because I feel disgusting, but the MMO that should not be named, I know, has a referral program.
A lot of them do, but a lot of the referral programs are mostly for in-game, like cosmetics, like a mount or something along those lines, or maybe even free game time. And Isarii made a great point. If you don't like the referral system, either A, don't accept the referral link from anyone, and don't refer anyone. There you go.
And by the way, yeah, I said this earlier, but you'll see it if you visit my Hobo Gamer Ashes of Creation. Everything you need to know about the game article is when I talk about the referral program. I don't have a referral link, so I'm not defending this as a content creator who has one, because I work ostensibly in old media somewhat, in actual. We're not print, but I go in, I write. I'm very boring. I have to do actual work when I'm creating content. It would be really weird it just feels wrong to me for me to have a referral link when I'm potentially, if I'm writing for MMORPG.com or MMOGames.com. Like, first of all, I could probably fit a referral link in there, especially on MMO games, but that would be weird, right? And so I don't want to do that. And I think since that's the type of content I really focus on, I didn't want to do it even on my blog. So, I'm one of maybe the only content creators that does not have that referral link set up. And
Are you pointing to me?
I don't have a problem with it.
No, I refer
Here's the
people like
thing,
crazy for an entire community. So I'm using it fund DCN. That works for me. Even though our real funding comes from Patreon, this is just something else. Not a big deal for me. If you don't like it, you don't like it.
Here's the thing, though, and a lot of people don't know this because, they're... here's a little insider secret for MMO games if you guys don't know, for those watching. So, a lot of YouTubers and Twitch users and Beam, I guess that's a new thing, and a lot of, content creators, all in all, will contact the publishing company. This goes for any publishing company, well, most. And they'll get an affiliate link. This affiliate link, that means that you go into it, you sign in with their link, you get a special little login screen sometimes. Whatever you spend, or if you even log in, if you buy a founder pack, they get a percentage of. This has happened in every single game. Now, the difference with this is, they've done it, they've made it available for everyone. Not just special content creators, people that have millions of subs or whatever the case. It's for all of you. So you guys are able to actually achieve by just referring. And the biggest situation that I find is I've been dousing these fires because in the Discord alone, this conversation has come up nonstop for the last 72 hours. The thing that I find that people are most confused about is if person A refers person B and person B refers person C, does person A get person C stuff? No, not at all. Person A gets person's B. And, the person B is not necessarily giving him money. It's money that's, you can think of it as the company's paying you, basically.
And the biggest thing is there's no buy-in. It's not like...
Exactly.
It's not even just that you don't have to buy it to resell it like a proper pyramid scheme. You don't have to buy the game to get referral income.
Well, you have to subscribe, don't you?
No.
No?
You don't even have to be playing. There's literally no risk. So, is that potentially going to lead to a bunch of people spamming referral links everywhere and be annoying? Yes, be aware of that. It's definitely happening. It sucks.
It's already on the Kickstarter. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but it's not a scam. There's no possible way you get fucked.
I just think people are not used to it because, like I said, it does happen a lot in the MMO industry where, you get your own private affiliate link. If somebody in here has signed up with, I'm just going to name names, Lazy Peon, Cry, PewDiePie, whatever, and you sign up in a game and they have this special link, you probably gave them a percent of your money without you even knowing. Mm-hmm. So, you guys shouldn't really take it.
I don't even necessarily have a problem with that, to be honest. Yeah. But it is something people should be aware of.
It's the same thing of if you click an affiliate link for a charity, you're not spending any more, but part of it's going to them anyway. That
if it's in a review capacity, I like it best when it's transparent. This is my referral link, but
absolutely.
Oh, help me, please.
We're ending, Taruha. We're gonna hit our last point.
I think that's that discussion. Yeah.
Yeah. As I say, this is our last point. We'll ask this question. We'll each hop around the corner or hop around the square and give you our final thoughts on this. What do you think? What do we want to know before the Kickstarter is finalized, meaning ends, at the end? So, sorry, go ahead and go first.
Sorry, died again. I have actually talked about all of mine earlier in the stream because we took an answer from the chat about what our big concerns are. So I guess I'll rehash them now, but I'll keep it quick. One, core MMO systems like combat progression and just what people are doing in their day-to-day. Nodes are a meta system that other systems feed into, things like quests, events. They influence nodes, but the quests and the events are what you're actually going to be spending your time on. So I want to know more about those systems that feed into the node system. The node system is definitely the big differentiator for the game. It's exciting. It's the hype. I know why they're leading with it. But before Kickstarter is finalized, I think we need to know a lot more about the basics. And then second, this was one of our interview questions, but fuck it. Yeah. I didn't think the answer. I didn't get quite the answer I wanted. So I'd like to know more about the strategy to balance crafting and PvE, which are both ostensibly providing the best gear. Are we going to see something like Arcade, where crafting is super RNG heavy? Based on Saru's comments earlier about what Steven has said in the past, I think the answer is no. I think the answer is breakage, actually, because we did the interview already. So maybe I do have a satisfying answer on that. But you could throw crafting in with something I want to know more about, crafting and gearing in terms of just core MMO systems.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what I want to know. Core MMO systems.
Saru, before your internet cuts out, what do you hope to know before the Kickstarter is finalized? Like, what do you hope that they're going to reveal? Maybe he's not even here. I don't know.
Sorry.
There we go.
It's this push to talk, dude. I'm telling you, it's like Skype. Okay, so yeah, I do apologize. I kicked mind power a little too much. What am I hoping to get out of the reveal? Like, I'm really hoping they will reveal what the racials between the braces, I guess. Like, how much will it affect your class exactly?
They said they want them to be really impactful.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I really want to know more in detail. Like, if I'm an elf, I don't know, tank, is it more beneficial for me to not be an elf and a tank, or should I be going to a specific thing? You know what I mean? That's what I want to know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Taruha.
I might sound goofy and lame, but as a role player, I want to. Yes, as a role player, I want to know about, will there be an emote system like we see in in Elder Scrolls and such, where the emote systems have been quite good up until now. I say up until now because
Are you just saying because they started paywalling emotes?
Yeah. Yes.
Let me kick off that too. I think an RP flag system where you can /RP and you get a RP, in character beside your nameplate is something that's undescribably easy to implement and that you almost never see, and that is such a big deal to RPers. And I don't know if we're gonna barrage them with RP questions. I have all types of RP support questions.
Like a lot of MMORPGs just miss the whole being friendly to RPers who are they'll play your game for way after the game is dead because they pretty much create their own content in there. So I'm just curious about the emote system and stuff like that, if there will be one.
Nice. For me, it's definitely I want to see more of the mechanics for, like you said, dungeons and raids and stuff like that, because he's just talking about 40-man raids. But that is crazy. Oh, and I'm loving that idea. I love all of that. I want to know, especially in this post World of Warcraft era, mechanics and stuff are important. Standard tank and spank bosses aren't going to cut it. There needs to be mechanics. There needs to be hard mechanics. There needs to be something for, just like there needs to be stuff for PvP people to do. There need to be some for PvE, and a lot of people like that kind of stuff. And I mean, I'm a raider at heart, something that really means to me. And also, probably the most important thing that I want to know is when our next interview is going to be. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this was the Dungeon Crawlers. We hope you enjoyed this, as well as the interview that we had with Steven Sharif, creative director over at Intrepid Studios, and the amazing Kickstarter sensation that is Ashes of Creation. I want to thank my co-host. Sorry, where can people find you?
People can find me at MMOGames.com, MMORPG.com, GameSpace.com, and TamrielFoundry.com, where I got my start, along with Atropos in chat here. That is our ESO community fan site. I also dabble in Twitch and YouTube, so since there's so much shit, the best place to look for me is in one place at errantpenman.com, or on Twitch, which is twitter.com/EthanMcPhee, EthanMacFie.
And I will have links to everyone's at least Twitter account and stuff like that in here, so you can find all of that as well. And I'll get Saru's as well. Saru.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Pretty good. Thank you for coming on, man. I mean, I'm really glad.
Thank you for. And I said it a few times in DMs. Thank you for inviting me. It was really a surprise. I was like, oh my goodness, okay, sure, I'll come on. Yeah, it was really nice. Thank you.
Did you have a good time?
I did. Apart from me kicking this power supply, I really enjoyed speaking with you guys. You guys have an awesome chemistry.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's awesome.
Aww.
And Taruha.
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter where my tag is Taruha_gaming, and the same for Twitch. So I'm a fairly simple person. Just stream. I stream mostly every day.
And you podcast till the sun comes up.
Yeah.
That should be your tagline. I podcast till the sun comes up.
Yeah.
I hear you.
If you ever do this to me again, I will know.
Great. All right. And, of course, I'm Aggelos. You can find me on Twitter at Aggelos_WOF. Find our Twitter, Dungeon Crawl Net. That's where we have everything on Twitter. Best place to follow us for any of our podcasts. We record this specific podcast every other Wednesday, generally around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can check out everything we do, DungeonCrawlerNetwork.com, Facebook.com/DungeonCrawlerNetwork. Our YouTube is YouTube.com/DungeonCrawlerNetwork. You're starting to see a pattern here. This episode, obviously, for people who are listening live, will be available generally on Friday on both of our RSS feeds on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, all those fun things, and, of course, the YouTube channel. Thank you so much. I want to give a special shout-out to Steven and the guys over at Intrepid Studios. You guys are great. Thank you for this awesome opportunity, and thank you for following your vision and making an amazing game. We'll see you later, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.